Doctor, I look into the mirror today, the metaphorical one, the one made of git blame.
So, what did you find, Frankie?
A method 400 lines long, no spaces, variable named x, x2, and doc, there is a variable in my own class, temp3. I don't even know what temp1 and temp2 did, they are just gone.
Frankie, that's not a monster problem. That's every Salesforce org on earth.
So I'm not hideous, I am industry standard.
You are industry standard, which is exactly the problem we are fixing today. Grab a bolt tightener. We are doing a full makeover episode.
Oh, like the one those home renovation shows, but for .cls files.
Exactly like that. Let's start with the ugliest room in the house, naming convention.
Okay, be honest with me, Doc. Does it actually matter what I call my variables? The computer doesn't care if I write X or number of active contracts.
The computer generally doesn't care. The next human who opens the file cares enormously, and 6 months from now the human is probably you, and you will have no memory of what access meant. Salesforce's own Apex guideline leans on the same convention Java uses. That is, classes start with a capital letter and are noun. So for example, if you have a class which is doing services for an account, so call it account service. So you start account service A capital, then lower letters, then service S capital, and then lowercase. Not like all lowercase account service or ACCT_SVC. So same way, method starts with a lowercase verb. For example, if you have a method which is calculating discount, name it calculate discount, which will be like lowercase calculate, then D capital, and is count as a lower, not like discount capital 1 or discount 2. And variable names should actually deserve what they hold. For example, it sounds almost too simple to matter, but naming is the single cheapest readability upgrade that exists because it costs 0 runtime and 0 governor limits.
So, temp3 is basically me showing up to a job interview in a bed shape with eye hole cut out.
Functional, but deeply, deeply unprofessional.
Fine, nouns for classes, verbs for methods, but Salesforce has its own weird stuff, triggers, batches, queuable. Is there a convention for those two?
There is, and it is one of the most widely adopted community conventions ever thought. Even though Salesforce doesn't mandate it, suffix your class by what it is. A triggers logic holding class gets like a trigger handler. For example, the account trigger handler. Batch job gets batch, account refund batch. Controller gets controller. Queuable gets a queuable suffix. The point isn't decoration. It's that anyone scanning your repos file list can guess what 80% of your classes do before opening a single one.
So, it's less name for personality and more name for what the creature is going to do once it's alive.
That's uncomfortably accurate for a Frankenstein metaphor, but yes.
Next room in the house, I keep hearing always use braces. I skip them all the time and my code still runs fine.
It runs fine right up until it doesn't, and that's exactly why this rule exists. Skipping braces on an if statement works until someone adds a second line inside it later. Assume the braces are implied and just introduced a bug that compiles perfectly and executes silently wrong. PMD, the engine underneath Salesforce's own code analyzer, has entire rule families dedicated to this. Like if statements must have braces, if else statement must have braces, for loop must have braces, while loop must have braces. Every one of them exists because someone somewhere got burned by an invisible scope boundary.
So braces are like stitches. Ugly, a little extra effort, but they are the reason the arm doesn't fall off later.
Frankie, that might be the best analogy you have ever made.
Okay, Doc. What about the nesting? I have seen if statements inside if statement inside if statements, like Russian nesting doll made of despair.
That's avoid deeply nested if statements, and it's a design smell for a very concrete reason. Every additional nesting level roughly doubles the number of paths a human has to hold in their head to understand the method, and it directly feeds into something called cyclomatic complexity. PMD's cyclomatic complexity rule literally measures the number of independent paths through your code because Salesforce's own documentation is blunt about the consequences. Complexity directly affects maintenance cost and readability. Past a certain point, nobody can safely predict what a method does just by reading it. They have to trace every branch by hand.
So my 400-line method with nested if inside nested if isn't just ugly, it's an actual measurable monster.
A quantifiable one. There is a number of how scary it is.
I want that number. I want to know how scary I am.
Wait, we will get you that number in the next segment. It's called a scanner.
You keep saying there is a rule for that. Am I supposed to just memorize hundreds of rules and manually check my own code every time?
Absolutely not. And there is a good news part of this episode. Salesforce ships an official tool for exactly this called Code Analyzer, and version 5 unifies everything under one roof. PMD for Apex, ESLint for Lightning Web Components, and Aura, Retard.js, CPD, regex, and the Salesforce Graph Engine for security data flow analysis. It comes with over 500 built-in rules out of the box, covering coding conventions, security best practices, and performance anti-patterns. And you run it with one command. SF Code Analyzer run. That's it.
One command for 500 rules? That's less manually checking your stitches and more MRI scan for my entire body.
Exactly the right image. And it's not just a CLI thing. It's built directly into VS Code through Salesforce official VS Code extension. So violation shows up right in your problem panel as you type. And it integrates with the Agentforce Vibes coding workflow. So you get scan feedback right when you are coding.
Okay, but does it just yell at me or does it actually help me fix things?
Both, honestly. It flags each violation with a severity and a rule tag, which means you can triage, fix security and performance issues first, defer minor style needs, and because it shares its engine with the tooling Salesforce uses for App Exchange security review preparation, running it before you ship is genuinely good habit building for managed package work too. If you are on the CI/CD pipeline, teams are increasingly writing code analyzer output directly into pull request as line level commits. So a reviewer never has to manually hunt for SOCL query in a loop or a hard-coded ID. The scan already flagged it before a human even opened the file.
So it's not one monster inspecting another monster stitching by candlelight anymore. It's an automated inspection line with 500 inspectors, all of whom never sleep, never get bored, and never say, it's probably fine.
Terrifying in a good way for once.
Speaking of AI, everyone's using Agentforce Vibes and Claude now to write Apex. Doesn't that just solve the whole readability problem for us?
It helps enormously, but it doesn't remove your responsibility. If anything, it raises the stakes. Agentforce Vibes ID is genuinely powerful. It's org aware, so when you ask it to create a trigger that prevents duplicate account based on email, it reads your actual schema first instead of hallucinating field names. And it runs in a plan mode that lays out an approach before touching code, and an act mode that writes it. Critically, it's already wired into Code Analyzer and DevOps Center as part of the workflow.
So the AI has good handwriting. Great. Why do I still need to review it?
Because the AI generated code still needs a human to verify the why, not just the what. Volume is exactly the risk the industry is flagging right now. As one 2026 analysis of Salesforce code review tooling put it, AI makes it easy to generate large volume of Salesforce code quickly, but the quality of the code needs to be validated before release. More code faster from the tool that doesn't attend your retro when production breaks. The static analysis habit matters more in a vibe coded world, not less.
Fine. So scan the AI code same as I would scan my own. Anything else different from the reviewing machine written Apex?
One thing worth watching for. AI models are pattern matchers, and a very common pattern in older Salesforce blog posts and forum answers is one of workflow rule era logic or copy-paste trigger patterns without bulkification. Treat AI output exactly like a junior developer's first pull request. Talented, fast, occasionally confidently wrong. It deserves the same rule pass as anything a human wrote by hand. Full platform code review tools now explicitly scan Agentforce related metadata alongside Apex and flows for this reason, distinguishing genuinely new violations from pre-existing technical debt. So teams can generate AI-assisted comments without stealing delivery.
So the AI is less a co-monster maker and more a very fast assistant who still needs the senior monster to sign off before the creature leaves the lab.
Exactly. Speed did not remove the need for judgment. It just moved judgment later in the process, straight into the code review.
Last room in the makeover. My class has 100 public methods and 40 fields. Is that bad?
It's a documented smell. And yes, PMD's design rule category exists specifically for this. Too many fields, flag classes carry more state than they can manage cleanly. Expansive public count flag classes exposing so much surface area that testing them properly becomes disproportionately expensive. And excessive class length and NCSS method count catch the just keep adding to this one file forever pattern. None of these are heart failure. They are smoke detectors. One going off means look closer, not evacuate the building.
So my 400 line class was setting off basically every smoke detector in the house simultaneously. We should probably call that a structure fire, not a smoke detector. And triggers, I heard you should never put real logic directly inside a trigger.
Right, that's a wide logic in trigger flag. And the reasoning is practical, not aesthetic. Triggers don't support the same method structure regular classes do. So they are genuinely worse placed to write test or maintain business logic. The standard pattern is a thin trigger that only calls a handler class. Back to that account trigger handler naming convention from segment 1. Keep all the actual logic somewhere units testable.
One more, do I actually need to write a paragraph explaining every single method, or is that just busy work?
This one is genuinely debated in the community right now, and it's worth being honest about the nonce instead of pretending it's settled. Some PMD rule set enforce Apex doc style comment block on every class and method at a fairly strict severity, and critics argue that that's redundant when modern IDEs already surface method signature and parameters instantly. And the more strategic take gaining traction, don't document what the IDE already shows you. Document the why. Why does this bad job exist? Why does this service method have this particular edge case handling? That's the kind of comment that survives a rewrite and helps the next developer or the next AI coding agent understand intent instead of just syntax.
So skip the paperwork nobody reads. Keep the paperwork that explains why the creature was built this way in the first place.
Perfectly put. And on tests, always assert with a message. Always test as a specific user with run as. Never rely on see all data is equal true. A test that fails silently or passes by accident is worse than no test at all because it gives you false confidence.
A test that lies to you, now that's the real horror story. Frankie's lab notes. 1. Name things for what they do. Noun for classes, verb for methods, and use community suffix conventions like trigger handler and badge, so your file list explains itself. 2. Always use braces and avoid deep nesting. Cyclomatic complexity is a real measurable number, and past a certain point, nobody can safely read your code by eye. 3. You don't have to check any of this by hand. Salesforce Code Analyzer version 5 unifies PMD, ESLint, and security scanning into one command with 500 plus built-in rules, right inside VS Code. 4. AI-generated code from tools like Agentforce Vibes still needs the same rule pass as human code. More volume means review matters more, not less. 5. Watch class size, public method count, and field count as smoke detector. Keep logic out of triggers and document the why, not the what. This has been Frankie's Lab Notes. Go forth and stitch responsibly.
But Frankie, how do you feel?
Stitched, braced, cyclomatically, less complex.
Best compliment I have ever given a fictional monster. See you all next episode.